Hi everyone, welcome to week 5 of Legal Tuesdays, our brief introduction to some of the key legal issues arising in the film and television industries. I'm James Whitaker and I act as legal advisor to the film and television charity. So the topic for discussion today is something called chain of title. Now you may well have heard of chain of title but not be entirely clear as to what it is or indeed how you establish it. So hopefully today's session will provide some helpful pointers. So let me start by stressing the fundamental importance of chain of title. It can become crucially significant to anyone who is developing or has developed content, particularly when you come to finance your project or indeed to sell it to distributors. Now, most financiers and distributors will insist on having adequate insurance in place for the project, and that's a topic we'll come back onto in a later session. But you will struggle to get insurance without being able to show adequate chain of title. So it really is fundamentally significant to have a clear understanding of what it is and how you establish it. So what is chain of title? Well, it's not a single document, it can be multiple documents, and the precise scope and content of that material of those documents will depend on the particular nature of the specific project. But what it does is establish the filmmaker's ownership of her film and all of the content used in her film, and that all of the rights necessary to distribute, sell, or deal with the content have been properly obtained and secured. So it is essentially a documentary trail establishing the ownership of all of the rights relevant to the film. So without ownership of all of the relevant rights, those rights cannot be granted to a distributor. So you will need to be able to show continuous uninterrupted ownership of all the rights in question, which will of course include an appropriate assignment or license of any content that is protected by copyright. So what does this mean in practice? How do you obtain clean chain of title, which is the ultimate aim here? The filmmaker will need to secure ownership of the copyright of any work by the cast and crew that makes a creative contribution to the project. This will typically be accomplished through the use of employment agreements with directors, scriptwriters, actors and crew, which may well contain explicit work for hire clauses. These state that the production company owns the copyright to the work product produced by the employees. So when looking at chain of title issues, you need to consider exactly what rights are being or have been granted and what rights are being reserved or retained. The content of a chain of title portfolio will depend on the particular project, but it will need to contain all of the relevant permissions. For example, to use the music that you're using in your project, stock footage, artwork, products, and so on. Those permissions will need to be signed. Now, we talked in an earlier session about the importance of contracts, and this really is where contracts come into their own. So how do you even begin to approach this pretty daunting subject? Well, as a matter of best practice, and this will make life a lot easier at a later stage, keep in mind chain of title issues from the very beginning of the project and ensure that you have sufficient documents from the start of the project and continuously through the duration of the project to establish good chain of title. And again, this will make things a lot easier when you come to finance or sell your project. The bottom line here is that if paperwork is missing at a late stage, it may hamper your ability to finance or sell your project. So while these issues will not likely instinctively be at front of mind at the start, it really does pay to address them from the get-go. And that's it for today. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'll look forward to seeing you next time when we'll take a look at some of the key types of agreement that you may encounter in the industry. See you then.